Come back to the track because I'm going to talk about horror stories, okay? And this is something which is very latest horror stories. Have you read about the MCP horror stories? Like last year, I wrote around 5 to 6 horror stories, and you know what? Docker team at the end of the year, right? They looked at the top 5 blog posts, and mine was like in the second number, which means that now I need to write more horror stories, okay, rather than writing about all this thing. But as you see, right, we started with a chatbot. Chatbot is like a especially question answer, right? You are asking something and you are getting an answer. And now what is that? With Agentic, it is not just like a reactive system; it is a collaborative system. Say, take an example of usually I say like Rameshwaram Cafe, right? You can have a counter, you can have person who you are basically handing over the food and all of this thing, preparing. The kitchen is there, chef is there. Now think of it as like replace with the agents, right? Agents are so intelligent that they know what to do and they are doing their own work, but in collaboration. So if you see the level of complexity here, right? We started with a very simplistic chatbot, and now we are going to the more like more complex stuff. And if you have to see here, the generative AI, you give a prompt to LLM, and LLM generate the text, images, and videos. But now, agents are like a problem-solving system. Okay, they are planning, they are acting, they are, you know, basically they are getting a response. Whether it is, and if there is any failure, as I said, right? If there is any failure, then it is trying to solve its problem, which means that agent is doing everything what we were doing, right? Before 3 years ago. And yeah, this is a simple way of how you differentiate. So this is the horror story which I was talking about. I wrote 5 horror stories last year, the most read, and the reason being people were literally scared because now, if you go to the chat GPT and ask something, and if you add an MCP, now they have added the MCP integration. Now it has access to your system. You say deploy a database for me, it will just go ahead and deploy it. Okay. Initially, you used to go ahead and ask. You used to copy it, put it in your, save it in your, somewhere in the GitHub or something. You flow it, and then you used to, run those commands on your local system. But now you don't have to copy paste. Just connect to the MCP, okay? And I have a blog which says about okay how you can use Docker MCP toolkit, connect to the Chat GPT and all of this thing. So first horror story was more on WhatsApp. I don't know how many of you know about WhatsApp. A person just goes ahead, joins a group, and all his data is gone. The second was one on, I would say, GitHub. Okay, one guy, he pulled all the personal information from the GitHub. Okay, these are really lengthy GitHub. These are horror stories. You need to spend at least 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to go through it. Okay, I have explained everything, but this was 2025. Okay. Now in 2026, I'm planning to write AI coding agent horror stories. Awesome. Claude, Gemini, they are literally awesome, okay? So the promise of AI coding agent is that, hey Gemini, clean up my old files. You know the culprit? Clean up. It literally cleaned up, okay? It cleaned up, okay? Look at this story, Reddit story. I am sharing this to warn everyone using Gemini CLI or similar tools that interact with the file system. I on Windows. I asked Gemini, okay, to rewrite my project into a new branch using a different technology. It was supposed to delete files from current branch only, but instead it ran destructive rm-fr. Even though some delete attempts failed with permission denied, like C drive, it still managed to wipe out all largest part of my entire C drive. Okay, this is one horror story. Let's go to the cloud. This is awesome. I was having a cloud CLI clean up my packages and into my whole Mac. Literally, these are the stories. Okay, these are the stories. You have to go to the Reddit and I would say initially it was Stack Overflow. People were going to the Stack Overflow to find an issue because now ChatGPT and Claude is solving all your problem, right? Now people are spending more time in Reddit. What happened? Did you face the problem? Yes, I do face the problem and all of this thing. So you have one platform where you can share all your dukh, we call it in Hindi dukhyada, right? All whatever dukh you have, okay? So this is how, I was reading this word rogue. I was looking at how to pronounce this word. Literally it is a rogue, okay? It is rogue, just like in Hindi. March 2025, there was a cloud code attempted to, home directory nuke. In July 22nd, there was a Replit agent, then the Gemini CLI, the cloud code, because the reason being you are giving access to your whole system. Okay. So this is the pattern of every disaster. Okay. So engineer gives reasonable instruction, just like how you gave, right? The agent interprets with confidence. Agents have full system access. You don't worry about it. Go ahead and deploy database. Manage my whole Kubernetes cluster, man. I have no time. I am work from home. I have to also take care of my family, right? Agent execute destructive commands. No confirmation, no sandbox. Have you tried YOLO? YOLO mode? Every time, it asks and you get frustrated. After 3 times, you say like, please do whatever you want. People used to watch 45 minutes video, right, on YouTube. Right now, the trending videos are learn Docker in 60 seconds. I don't have time even to talk to you guys. Tell me interesting stuff. I have a Spotify running by side, and then you are also troubling me, asking me so many questions. Go to this mode and delete everything, man. So, how Docker is trying to solve this problem? So, as you see, right, one of the thing is the whole journey of Docker is more on these three aspects, right? You do Docker build, Docker push, Docker run, right? This we have been doing, and you build some kind of a software on your local machine. You package that particular image, and the whole idea is the whole container works as a sandbox environment, right? But now, if you see here, since we need to, every company is an AI company today, right? And so what we are doing, that software piece, still workload is there, but now it is AI workload. And that is why, you see in Docker Desktop, now we are building agent, we are sharing agent, and we are running the agents, right? And then there are two important aspects here, security and governance, right? Who is going to govern it, right? Because right now, can you guess how many MCP servers are there right now? Any guesses? Oh man, you are correct. 10,000 MCP servers, even more than that. Okay, and these MCP servers are like Grafana has its own, right? ARM has its own. Then you have Node.js Sandbox has its own, right? There are MCP server. Now, who is going to manage them? You are using it, the MCP server, but who is going to manage it, right? So now, if you see, the story has changed a bit. Okay, when you say build, we have tools like MCP Toolkit, MCP Catalog, MCP Gateway, Model Runner. Model Runner helps you to run model locally, just like an Olama, right? So this is something which we have integrated into it. You get all the functionality which Olama has today, but it is just that Docker has integrated into platform. You don't have to even worry about the third-party tool, right? In terms of share, we have, we talked about in the past meetup like C agent, right? If you want to build your own agent, that is where your C agent come into the picture. We have a Agentic Compose, okay, which basically builds all those AI workload with model, with MCP, everything. You can dump it in one Docker Compose file. And today what I'm going to talk about is a sandbox environment. Because you heard about the story, how it is happening, right? When you go to the Gemini or Claude, right, you're giving access to your system to deploy something. And they just do it what you say. But when your prompts, because everything is a prompt today, right? Whatever you are writing, it is based on the prompt. Even I have been creating my own songs through prompt. The way how I add lyrics, the way how I add. How many of you use suno.com here? Yes? Oh my god, so many. Yeah, I have been a huge fan of that. And now I don't need even a Ajeet Singh or any other Raina or something like. I have my own songs. Okay, so which means that now it is all about the prompt. It is all about the style, and you just go ahead and do it, right? So when your prompts, when you say clean up my system, what does it mean? Delete everything, man. I want to start new MacBook. I need new MacBook, brand new. Okay, so we need to be careful, and when we are careful, right, then you can control it. Otherwise, LLM is going to give you like 1500 lines of code. It will build the whole software. If you have used, how many of you use Lovable here? See the hands. You see the power, right? You just give one prompt. It brings up the UI. It connects to the Supabase. Put it in Vercel, and your website is up. Production environment, man. just in 5 minutes, production environment. Okay, so this is how the developer experience today. I want to use AI agent for coding, but what if I delete my files? What if it corrupts my config? What if it touches my other projects? Okay, these are the things. And you should go to the Reddit. Spend more time in Reddit. Okay, that is where you will see the real story. What is happening? Lot of people complaining, and it's not like it's not a. I would say it's not a fault of this. It is fault of how you are giving a prompt. These tools are there, they are ready to help you, but we need to make it very clear that this is your, that this is the boundary. You have to define the boundary. Okay, there is nothing wrong in the tool. Okay, there is nothing wrong in the tool. Okay, so what developer actually need, it needs isolation. So your agent can only touch the project files, same path, persistent. Whenever you configure the Git, right, it should be able to identify. It should not like you are just pushing and anyone can get access to the keys and all of this thing. Okay, and so we introduced something called as a Docker sandboxes. So before this, Gemini or Claude, you just write. How do you start the Claude code? Claude code. That's it, and you enter into it, right? And then the whole system is yours. But now what we have done, we have introduced something called as sandbox environment. It is again a container. Right now it is a container. Maybe after 2 weeks you will see like it will be a micro VM. Okay, and I will tell you why. Okay, so you can use any agent. So right now we have a support for two officially. One is Claude and Gemini. Then we have a support for Kiro, which we did in the last AWS event. That was a demo. We are also working with, I would say, the integration with MCP toolkit, all the rest of the stuff. You see all these AI agents and everything coming up. So this is how it looks like. So let me tell you, like you have a host machine. So right now this is my host machine, okay, my laptop. Then I have a Docker desktop VM. Docker desktop runs inside a VM, but you will never know because it is very tiny VM, which is based on the BusyBox stuff. Okay, and then under that, now I have two things now: containers and sandboxes. Both are containers, but we'll see what is the difference. Okay, and then inside that you are running Cloud. Okay, and Claude can see, can't see. Okay, we are defining that. Okay, what I'm saying that inside a sandbox, I can only see the project one workspace at a time. Okay, so I will show you a demo of it. So let me first explain you about what is the difference between container and sandbox. Okay, now in order to explain, right, because I was talking to the Cloud and I say like, what, I'm presenting this, what would be the best thing, what's best analogy, right? And this is the perfect one. Okay, so you have two different cars, like rental car and a personal car. Okay, rental car is something you are going to Uti, you book a car today, and after 1 week you won't see the same car, right? So for example, when you go to your rental car, you always have to adjust the mirror, you have to set the GPS address, right? You have to bring your own cables. Yes, true. And you have a different car every time. Okay, don't expect that the car will be very clean or something like that. Especially even in Bangalore, I am seeing that. But you have a personal car. When you are parking your car, right? The moment whatever it was there, you will find the same things there, right? So the mirror is already set. Based on that, you have arranged your seats. Your GPS knows your home, because usually whenever you are traveling, you set the home, right? And every time you get into the car, all these things are intact. They are there. Okay, so it is your car. So Docker Run is more like a rental car now. Okay, you have rented the car, and I will explain you each of this concept. Okay, and the personal car is more like a sandbox. Okay, if you are running an AI agent, if I enter into this container after 1 week, the agent will be there. Okay, now you might say I can implement it myself, right? But imagine AI agent running inside. Even if you have to mount various volumes, you need to look into the permission, right? You have to go through all those complexity. If you do it, you can do it on your own, but we are not stopping here, right? We have to run the whole Agentic AI, your LLM, your MCP, you have to mount it, you have to make it work, and there is more complexity around it. Okay, now state persistence. So imagine that you have, especially your trunk inside a car, you place something, you come after 1 week time and it is still there, right? So the same thing happens uh, with say in the regular Docker run command, what you do here, you say Docker run command, node tag is 20, you get into it, you install something. Next time when you start the same command, will you see those files? No, right? With sandboxes, you will see that there is a state persistence here. If I do Docker sandbox run Claude, I get into it, I install the packages. After 1 month, if I come and access it, it will be the same. Okay. So let's quickly jump into a kind of a terminal. I don't know how much time. Oh my god, 4 minutes. So what I'm going to do. Okay. So this is my terminal. Is it visible? Yes. So what I'm going to do. So I have a command called Docker sandbox.
Docker sandbox.
If I say Docker sandbox, and if I say run, okay, so right now the available agents are Claude and Gemini. Okay, you will see the long list later point of time. So if I say, so right now what I need to do, I need to be inside a specific directory. Okay, say the directory name is sandbox testing. Okay, so whatever the changes which I am going to make will be within this particular directory. Okay, so what I can do, run Claude.
Docker sandbox.
So when I say Docker sandbox run Claude, I'm inside it, and right now say list of all the files. I will say okay, show me list of all the files. Okay, so what it will do, it will only show me all the files within that directory, which means that now I'm just restricted to that particular directory. One workspace, one sandbox per workspace. Okay, now if you see most of the stuff which you see here, right, these are the directories which are inside my sandbox. Say for example, if I say list of all the files under slash users slash Ajeet as Raina. So now I am asking outside the directory, list me all the files, because in the cloud what happens that people just go ahead and deploy the whole to-do list application, and it will just go ahead and dump the file under slash bin, under this and all this thing, right, to make the application work. But in this case, what you see, it is only listing me the directory which I am inside. And if I say, okay, show me all the file under the Ajeet Raina. So right now, if you see here, this appears to be a sandbox environment. Okay, so this is like, even though it looks like we have abstracted most of the stuff, but the whole idea is that now the cloud, like, you won't face that problem where the whole Mac system is getting wiped out. Okay, those problems you can solve. And as I said, right, you get in the cloud, you install something, and you come so if you see here, if I close this terminal, so if I'm opening a terminal here, I'm closing this session. Okay, now if I again run, if I do Docker sandbox ls, so right now there are two sandbox environment. Okay, and these sandbox environment, if you see, there are two different directory. One is sandbox with Docker and sandbox in testing. So my cloud can only perform all the action within this particular directories, project directory. It can't go beyond that. Now, if you have to implement through Docker, simple container, it is difficult. The reason being, you have to mount the volume. You have to look into kind of, I've just showed you a very simple example. Think of it as like if you have to call MCP server inside it, okay? Because this agent has to talk to the different MCP server, how it is going to happen. So this is, right now we are in very early stage, I would say. It is an experimental feature, okay? The next release, which might happen like next week, it is basically a micro VM. Why we are jumping to the micro VM? Why? Because now think of it as like, if I make some changes in the kernel itself, because it is a shared kernel, right? There are chances that it might wipe out few of the configuration changes and all of this thing. So people can still hack into it, okay? So we are bringing up the micro VM kind of an architecture where every VM will have its own kernel, so that you can't go ahead and even corrupt that, right? So this is the path matching would be like, I would say, the similar way how you have a GPS system, where your home is and where your friend's house is, you tag those, right? And if you have to see here, like the directory structure which I am specifying, okay? Even inside a container, I can run Docker. Okay, say if I want to run Docker, still we can do it. You have to just pass the mount point. Okay. So this is a path matching. You have a Git configuration. The other thing is that, say if I am working on a project, I am building a software, I want to push it to Git. Okay. Here you don't really have to go ahead and configure it, because now you are, first thing is your Docker desktop is running inside a VM, and inside a VM you have a container. Inside a container you have a sandbox. There are three different layers, right? And if you start configuring it with GitHub and all this thing, you get into the complexity. So what we are providing you is, you just authenticate it once. Whatever is in .config, .git config, we are adding it here, so that as a developer you don't have to even think of different configuration. We are giving you as it is. You just have to authenticate once. That's it. Okay. So Git configuration, the credential storage, uh, yeah, and this is really important. One sandbox per workspace. This is really important. Okay, and if I create a new directory, and if I anytime I log in, I will see the same configuration which I did. Okay, now this thing is really important. The reason being, when you build an agentic AI application, we have LLM, we have an MCP server, we have MCP tools. Okay, right now what people are doing, they are directly running Claude on their host machine. And when you run it on the host machine, so the first prompt which I tried is like, oh, can you create a to-do list application? Okay, and it randomly added all my files in a different directory. And I was in trouble. Oh my god. Now again I went ahead and say like, can you clean up this? But again, I was little, when I read it, the cleanup is literally scary. So I don't want to use it. So yes, so it is more like a rental car. You have a three different keys, and you don't know which one is your. You say you booked three different vehicle for your friends. You are going to Ooty with your friends, and you are confused, right? In this, it is more like whatever you have in the garage, right? That is, you know which your car is, right? And yes, thank you.